Well, good evening. Welcome to News Talk. This is the pre-show. The boys will be here soon. Robert Harriman and Alex SNITKER will be joining us. Hopefully we'll have some other guests. Let me pound through some tests, make sure things are fine. Wanted to invite you to join the conversation. We have a link right there to the StreamYard, and you can hop right in, offer your comments, maybe offer up a topic, those kinds of things. Let me preview a little bit about some of the things that are going on. Obviously, we're going to jump through some coronavirus conversations, obviously everything from maskings to the mandate, crazy stuff going on in the news. Reid, of course, still making headlines. But I wanted to really kick off tonight. We're going to talk about sort of this bizarre social justice warrior leftist mentality, arguments, debates, those kinds of things. And plenty of to talk about. We have pop culture topics, all sorts of things. So the culture war kind of is broad. News is crazy. So tons and tons to talk to. Feel free to hit me a little chat, give me a little C for ICU, so I kind of know where you're at. I'm trying to kind of monitor the 3 different streams tonight a little differently to make sure things are working appropriately, and invite you in to join the conversation. As I say, Robert, Bob will be here later. So will Alex, and maybe some other folks as well who have talked about stopping by. So hence the link is right there in case you would like to hop in with your 2 cents. One of the things I think that's made the news is sort of the impact that we're now seeing with schools and that kind of thing, where restaurants, access, those kinds of things are actually taking place now. People are getting turned away. You saw a BLM protest at the restaurant because a black family was turned away from a restaurant because they didn't have the Vaxport, the vaccine mandate passport. I think there's also a lot more happening with schools. There's a viral video with a child where the mask is being, pulled over the poor little kid's face. He's screaming, whatever. And again, we've been over some of the statistics. I don't quite understand who's protecting whom, who's the risk. Is the child the risk? Is the teacher the risk? I'm just not quite sure I understand what their thought process is there. And gotta be honest, I'm not sure they know. So anyway, so what are your thoughts? What are some of the topics that are going on that are a big deal to you? Would love to know some of the things that are going on there. Feel free to hit me up with an idea, a topic, something you want to talk about. Obviously, here on News Talk, you can go over to YouTube. You can see a little bit about what different topics are going on. You'll see the different clips as they get posted throughout the week, following each stream, in case you miss it or you want to sit through the full hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it goes. Also, you can go over to Pop's channel, the Pops on Pop Culture, where you can get some different talks about some movies and shows and things like that. So about once a week or so, you'll see some stuff pop up there as well. And again, love your suggestions, what you're interested in, what should we hit on. Hi, Pat, I see you out there. Hopefully you and your family are doing well, keeping safe. Congratulations on a big birthday week and those kinds of things. It's always exciting to hit those milestones. So best to Dennis and your family. One thing for me personally is I'm still really kind of shocked by the overflow of the politics in the movie, TV, comic book realm. It is still a very, very strange phenomenon. There was a debate this week that kind of went through kind of the modern comic books, people that have kind of gotten away from the standard DC Marvel industry. They're doing their own thing now. And this basically shows social justice warrior leftists basically tried to organize a debate, a conversation, but it's basically just a glorified interview / reflection of trying to say, I got you, look at this thing you said or did or whatever. I think it was very indicative of our problem at large, hence the reason we'll start off with understanding the left. And I want to try to really create, I think it's very interesting. People have a hard time defining cancel culture. And I'm like, I don't have a hard time doing that. So I think we'll start tonight off with that. And as I said, we'll talk about some of the other stories and some of the other things that are going on or that might be of interest to you. again, personally, wanted to talk real briefly here. I got a few more minutes for the guys pop in. Did see Cry Macho. We'll try to put together maybe a longer review for that. Wish I could say I could recommend it. I can't. I feel like it's just way too slow. I think Clint Eastwood looks horrible in the beginning of the film. I think there's a middle, and some of the journey is not too bad. And yeah, I think that it is a little difficult to know how to take modern filmmaking with something like this. And it was probably made a year or two ago. Who knows at this point? There's certain movies that are coming out. They've been in the works for so long. I'm not even sure it gets the folks where they thought they would be when it comes to the topic at hand. I think Black Widow is definitely a case in point where, you know, they really felt as though they would be in the Trump era, having these Harvey Weinstein sort of things. And that was the amalgam of this, you know, ridiculous, silly villain that we got at the end of the film. It really just did not work. And I do think that the time lapse here is part of that. We're also seeing that with other films that are still not come out yet, where it's like, you know, these were filmed, let's say, you know, 2018, 19. Wait, well, Bond. I mean, the Bond movie was probably filmed, you know, 2018, 2019. You're getting so removed from their release that they had thought of or relevant, things like that. It may not quite translate. So, but yeah, I think that it's been a little weird navigating the negativity of the stuff. And I'm telling you, folks, it's just like everything else. You know, it has to be a healthy diet. You know, don't be afraid to turn your phone off. Don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be afraid to just say, I don't need that today, or I can just get a couple things. I think we're trying to just kind of grow step by step back. I think we've obviously took such a hiatus during the last 16, 18 months. You can go over to Outbreak News today. You can see the great work that Bob's been doing there as far as health and disease. And his channel, of course, is getting live videos with different experts, as well as some that he's recording, doing live shows, those kinds of things. So there is still a way to connect and get you information that I hope that you can trust and believe. Sure, we're going to give you our comments, our thoughts and opinions, but we're trying to actually give you a real story, not making one up, and also trying to give you the quotes and facts that are surrounding that particular story or that particular topic. So again, there is a little link there called Join the Conversation. You'll see a little StreamYard link. You can feel free to pop that and join right in here. If you have a comment or something that you want to add to the conversation, those kinds of things. Hey, listen, I can handle it. We did a live show. We can handle you, and you'll behave and be pithy. I know you people. You're good. You're good people. You know what you're doing. You can handle it. So that being said, let me run down some of the topics again in case you didn't catch where we're going to be tonight. We're going to kind of define cancel culture, some of the different things, the way the leftists look at things. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the misinformation. Had a very bizarre series of events with a press release that was sent over for us to post. And as I fact checked and went through this a little bit deeper, started to realize that there's a huge sort of like behind the curtain political bias that's there. And of course, there's a big story that came out of the Atlantic this week that talks about hospitalization statistics. And I thought that'd be important to throw out there for you folks as well, so you can actually see some of the data, and hopefully it'll help you at least try to understand how to be appropriately skeptical, because you shouldn't be throwing out the data, but you also should learn how to evaluate it a little bit better. And we'll talk about the Emmy, the mass stuff that went on in San Francisco. You saw some of that craziness. And then I like to call him Little Seth. Little Seth Rogen had he chimed in and got his hand slapped for talking out of turn. So talk about that. Joy Reid, of course, back in the news, back in the headlines. And oh geez. Our story, Nicki Minaj, of course, as well, because she kind of got herself put in the corner. Nobody puts Nicki in the corner on Twitter, but they sure tried. And she had a few things to say before she was out the door. And I got to be honest, it is something that, might be worthy of taking note of, folks. I mean, I don't know that it's inappropriate to, question, why the political party would matter so much on whether or not you should listen to someone or not. If we're going to play team sports like that, there may never be an end to our divide. There'll never be a way we gather again. We have to figure out what our core values are. What are the things that we can agree? And I talked about in one of my videos about the Texas versus California mindset. Texas does doing their own thing. California likes to do their own thing, but it appears as though California doesn't like Texas doing their own thing, and they want to do everything they can do to influence that change. And we're seeing that here in Florida. I saw today there was a quick little email that went out talking about Florida and just petitions being started or anything to be done that might involve Florida taking up maybe some heartbeat abortion timeline restrictions or regulations. Also with voting ID is still a very hot topic. And nearly every press release, whether it's the Virginia race, whether it was the California thing, and we didn't even get to I didn't even put the Larry Elder thing on the books tonight, but I should have, because it was really, really crazy seeing how some of the stuff in California actually went down. They just evoke Trump on every single thing. Stop Trump. It's like Trump's not on the ballot, but you would think he is by the way everything is written, every single topic that is approached at every single press, every single request for funding, those kinds of things. I don't know that I'm seeing on the right any of that enthusiasm, organization, give now, fund this candidate, fund that candidate. And maybe it's just I'm not plugged into the right networks. I'm willing to admit that. I do see personally, anecdotally, a ton of motivation for the opposing party. That's typical, especially for the incoming president. His opposition party always has a grassroots swell opposition for a midterm. I really underestimated that back during George W. Bush, and I will never make that mistake again, because I was really quite shocked at how that actually works, how mathematically that works, those kinds of things. So we need to be diligent, understand what matters to you, your family, your network of things, prioritize the issues so you can make the kind of changes and vote accordingly. We'll do our part with that. Close to home here in Florida, I will say, with the Ocala mayor election, which sounds like this weird city thing, there was a very controversial candidate. She is an extremely wealthy Muslim woman, sponsored by CARE, who came out with very radical left ideas, like defunding the police towards community police, obviously mask mandates and those kinds of strong arm COVID things would be the rule of the day in little city proper Ocala. So I'm happy to report that that did not go her way, and I can't win 65-35. I personally would not have been impacted by that. I didn't have a vote and skin in the game, but do like to enjoy going into the town there and enjoying my life, and I would not have been thrilled about ramped up COVID restrictions, as well as defunding police and some of the other talking points. I think we can agree to disagree on that if we need to, but some of the stuff's playing out in these big cities, and I don't want to see these small to medium-sized cities go down that same road. So my unofficial sponsor, Dr. Pepper Zero. As you know, I don't drink Coke anymore. I'm off the Coca-Cola. I will say it's getting increasingly difficult to get my Pepper Zero. I will be quite saddened if I find out that there's not a way to maintain my zero consumption. I'm hoping that there's no problems there in getting Coke, but I could be wrong. I hope not. I hope I'm good. So, let's see. What else came up this week? One thing that I started last week and I haven't got back on it this week, I will try to, for any of you, because I know one of you spoke to me personally, sought me out and said they had a good time. It was about 20 to 30 minutes of me reviewing the first part of a movie called Karen. We might talk about that later. I'd love to hear Alex's take on something that obnoxious, because Lord knows certainly was. Yeah, because I could pull that up. We could talk about Karen because it's meant to be. It's centered around and laced with all this like horror music, and I was shocked to see how much they were going to try to play it up as a serious, scary film with suspenseful music and those kinds of things. And for love of Pete, it was a comedy at best. It was a comedy of errors, that's for sure. Satire, possibly. So, one thing I wanted to talk about too was how much I want to encourage you to. I've heard a lot of folks who we use the term red pill on the show, but people that have really been impacted by cancel culture, leftist politics, maybe pop culture in their movies, things of that nature. They've really woken up to stuff. So let me bring Alex in here, my friend. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Brandon. Doing well.
Figure out what I got going on. There we go. Oh, geez, I got all sorts of echo. Hang on one second. Let me try to. There we go. Got that out. Can you hear me?
I can. I got to shut the door, though.
That's fine. We're good. SNITKER's got stuff going on, and we got stuff going on, and we're going to get it on together, figure things out. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a busy week, but so far, actually got a new desk here. The guy that's next door had a business, but he's kind of downsized and he's doing it more out of his house now. So he had a big desk, and he let me have it. So.
All right. Yeah, I went through just a general open, making sure all of our tech stuff works. Tell you what, it's been a good week. I'll wait for Bob to hop in there before we jump into some news stories I thought you'd enjoy. If you get a chance, click over to the News Talk YouTube page. Enjoy the comments on the Nicki Minaj, Joy Reid. Maybe we'll get to this. Maybe we'll just do that later. Let's do a comment moment because it was really quite eye-opening of this person's perspective on things. And there is a racial divide and how people see things and protected classes and who can say things and who can't, what's appropriate speech. And it's a little hard, man. It's hard to know what to do and say and get used to. I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to it, I guess.
I saw the Nicki Minaj things. I saw what she said, and I didn't have an issue with it at all. And as a matter of fact, when the initial tweet was, somebody had an adverse reaction, swelling of the balls, which I don't really think is a thing against COVID. However, she's just like, I got questions, so I don't know if I want to take the vaccine. And to see the attacks on her was just unbelievable. And
yeah, but I meant
she wasn't giving up at all, though. She was fighting.
No. I want to get to that because there was more of that. Hey there, Bob. Good. Thanks for dropping in here. Let's get right to it. Right?
All right, gentlemen.
All right. It's a busy week, as always. There's more to get to than we could ever do. I was telling Bob, Alex, that these nerds, man, they'll stream for hours and hours and hours and just ping stories, have people coming in and out. And I was watching this one show, it was a live stream. It's more like listening to like a radio show because at one point he just stops and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. And he's turning over here, he's doing something. Next thing you know, he puts a link, he pins the link in the comments like I have done tonight. And people could just basically call into the show. He was just popping up like 5 people at a time. They were allowed to make their comments. He would respond and then he would just make them go away. It was like, I have not actually seen that in real time with this type of software, but as Bob and I were discussing it, I guess there's no reason why you couldn't just take a live caller, basically. It was really interesting. I really thought of it that way. So, hey, the world is our oyster, my friends.
Yeah, I know Adrian wants to get do live callers on the show, but I'm not against it, but I'm not really for it either.
Yeah. Hey, to me, it's fodder. The good thing is I will say, I don't know what you guys can see. I do have like a control board. So I actually have control of your mic and your pictures and all sorts of nonsense. So I've actually wondered what that looks like. Let me try something here real quick. What happens if I hit that? Oh yeah, look at that. Listen, I can crop that and use that as a thumbnail. I did not know it did that. It's good to know that's how it works. Mm-hmm. All right. So again, there's like all these little buttons. Let's see, kick from studio. I mean, there's tons. So I can change your name like I did the other night when I did it to Bob. We could do stuff like that. So, all right, folks, we're going to get right to a story that I keep bumping off our list. So I want to knock it right out. One of the things that I've noticed is people are becoming clear with understanding this rise of leftism in our country, that it's not liberalism. There's an anti-free speech movement. There's this embrace of social justice, critical race theory. You'll hear all these different things, being woke. And there's degrees of that. And one of the things I think is interesting, people always dance around cancel culture, or they're trying to say cancel culture doesn't exist. So here's what I've come up with a definition. I want to run it by you guys. We can all speak the language. We can have it documented. I said, cancel culture is losing your position, role, or job due to pressure for an unrelated social transgression, usually for political differences or language offenses, meaning political correctness. How do you think I did there? Losing your position, role, or job due to pressure for an unrelated social transgression, meaning it's not about your actual job or role. It's usually something else that you've done outside of it. So it's a tweet that you made, or it's a comment that someone made, or it's something else that's getting you canceled. And then it's usually political ideology or a word that you use that was offensive. So I had to figure out a way to tweak it so I could include like James Dore, who was basically kicked out of Google just because he was saying, well, a lot of women are not going into this field. That's why there's not a lot of women. But you're not allowed to do that. You're sexist, basically, at that point. So you're out. He's basically canceled. And as far as I know, he's made so much money of just being canceled because it was like an anomaly to have someone in the tech field. He basically is now able to speak on it. But I had to try to figure out a way to cover the general term well enough. I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's not bad.
Okay. I got still the furrowed brow, so Alex is not convinced. He'll tweak my definition. We'll see. We'll play with it. Okay. It's a good first try. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I'm old enough to remember in the 80s, something called political correctness,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's I look at it as political correctness on steroids, right? That's what it's turned out to be.
With a boycott option.
It can really affect your livelihood now.
Yeah, they have like a boycott option that can be attached to you personally. Like before, political correctness was more like, slap on the wrist, don't say those things. But it didn't come with like political shaming. It didn't come from, oh, we're going to dox you. We're going to call your employer and let them know that they think you're a racist, or they think you're a homophobe, or whatever istrophobe that they want to throw your way, try to get you fired, or get you, you're no longer going to be able to host of this show or have this role, or you'll become unhireable, those kinds. You'll unperson you. That's kind of the way I looked at it. And I wanted to really dissect this thing because I think it's very interesting. I've been listening to there's an Unsafe Space YouTube channel, and Carrie Smith is a co-host on there. And one of the things that she said was that one of the things that took this, the reason that this took fire, and she went back to the George Floyd incident. And I really wanted to, what really struck me, and she didn't say this, but this is my thought on it, was it took the political correctness under the guise of racism, and it made these social justice warriors and activists successful at something. They found a way to be successful and create a division that got them what they wanted. And that was something that, in like unprecedented levels. So I'm not sure that that had really happened before. And I think that's a pretty accurate thing. Because for me, I always go back to the protests and rallies as being this big pivot point, right? Because we were still kind of on a lot of lockdowns, a lot of shutdowns. But once the rallies and the protest stuff started breaking out everywhere, I don't know about you guys, when we were in Florida, we were like, okay, let's go back to life. Timeline's about right.
You know what? As far as the protests in Florida were going, it seemed like those protests weren't actually as destructive as in other places around the country. And I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Well, there was a reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think
the police in Florida were not going to play that game the same way as these other towns, other cities.
So one of the things that I've watched a couple of channels, and this really kind of helped me through. You guys have heard me complain and moan about the comic book industry and being taken over by the social justice warriors, because they have. There's a couple terms this one guy came up with. His name is Richard Maher, and he had been doing these sort of like social justice comic book reviews and conversations, and because these people are on Twitter and they are nuts on Twitter, and it's like, you're a comic book person, but in their little world they're like these quasi celebrities, and it's almost like the adrenaline rush, the dopamine. So one of the things that they believe is a term he came up with, he called endorsement. So when you're talking to a leftist, this is why the leftist doesn't think Bill Maher should have Ben Shapiro on his show. This is why Rogan is 6 degrees of separation from a white supremacist, because he's interviewed somebody who may have interviewed somebody. When you have someone on your show or you do whatever, you're endorsing the things that they believe. You're giving them a voice and a platform, because they look at everything as this platform and this opportunity to move a movement. And since they look at things that way, this is the other one called transference or projection. They think that we do too. So as far left as they are, they think the people that are on the right, they feel the same way. So the only reason that you're going to go on those shows is to move your platform and your message, which isn't not 100% wrong, but it's taken to the nth degree because it's endorsing something, not just letting you have free speech. Is that a fair way to describe that element of their personality and some of the stuff that's gone on? Because I think it really, really kind of captures some of the outrage that we see sometimes.
Go ahead first, Bob.
No, I'm on board. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what was weird for me was that I could never get my head around why people are just so bent out of shape. You can't talk to that person. They said this, or they can't talk to that person. So on me personally, this is what happened. I was like, okay. So on this little comic book creator, they unfollow, they block me. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. Well, come to find out, this person's notorious of looking at who your friends are, who you follow. So therefore, if you follow or you friend people that they've already deemed the unpeople, you're in that same classification. You endorse the things that they say and do. You're like all part of it. There's no way to not be part of these tribes. They put you in groups, even if you're not in groups. They don't believe in free speech the way we do. It's just very, very fascinating to think of these sort of like sociological principles around how they behave.
Yeah. Well, look at the new Surgeon General that DeSantis just appointed. Did y'all hear about that?
Oh yeah, I have that on my notes. That's part of my behind the scenes. How do I call it? The behind the scenes COVID misinformation thing, because that came to us via a press release. And come to find out, there's so much more to that story. But yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say. I mean, I don't recall his name off the top of my head, but he Harvard Medical School, Harvard PhD. Pretty good. Hi there. Pretty good professional cred, right? He came from UCLA, and then people were digging up stuff on him, finding he was like for hydroxychloroquine, and he's not the biggest mask endorser and stuff like that.
He's been pretty anti-mask on some of that stuff. Like it's basically exaggerated protection. Yeah. He said, ivermectin's not the worst thing in the world. Talk to your doctor. But that's not how it's being brought to the light.
But nothing surprising. That's what you would expect DeSantis to a point, right? He got rid of Scott Rifkin, I used to work for the Department of Health, and I was not a big fan. But if you go on Twitter, you're seeing like all these Harvard Medical School grads coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, I went to school with him. I never knew anything about that." Man, I mean, he just like pulled the wool over my eyes. That kind of talk, of course, not nearly as friendly. Yeah.
Well, that kind of goes to one of the other principles is that this comic book I use this term is probably not appropriate, but I couldn't think of a good replacement. Was that they hunt in packs. So once the meat is there, especially like something like Twitter, it's like a cesspool of attack. So it's not like one person comes at you and gives you a hard time. We're used to that. That's pretty normal life. That's every day that ends in Y. But this whole thing where they'll bombard your employer, they'll bombard you, that kind of thing, or every Harvard grad comes out of the woodwork to go, oh no, this guy can no longer speak on campus. He's not welcome here. He's not even welcome to be part of the alumni anymore. Kick him out of the club. Those kinds of things. Alex, how do you view some of the left and some of these different things that you have seen?
Okay, so to the original thing that you're talking about, I actually listened to some of this week between Glenn Greenwald and Chelsea Manning. Is that now Chelsea Manning is like trying to cancel Glenn Greenwald because Glenn Greenwald goes on Tucker Carlson, and you know, he'll go on any state, he'll go on anything at all in order to go out there. I really and look, I know that Glenn Greenwald is a very progressive person, and that he is he's, you know, he definitely has some ideological differences between me, but the one things that we share is freedom of speech. And, you know, there's a lot of things when it comes to going after government corruption that Glenn Greenwald is phenomenal on. And if there was no bigger cheerleader for Chelsea Manning, or who was, I forget his name before he
Bradley Manning.
Manning. But there was no bigger cheerleader than Glenn Greenwald. And for Chelsea Manning to basically try to cancel the guy because he goes on Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan or whatever, just seems to be so counterproductive. And I do think, though, that deep down that these people know that their ideology is bankrupt, that like they cannot stand someone to be able to beat them in an argument, and this is why they do it. And people like Glenn and like even Jimmy Dore and Tulsi Gabbard, they will go on those other places to talk because they really do believe what they're talking about. And while, again, I would have disagreements with those people, I'm glad that they're there, and I would like to debate issues with them because I think it would be done above board. It would be done with honesty, and we may come up with different conclusions at the end, but I don't think that the ad hominem attacks would be the same. So I think that you have to be picky and choosy. Now, at the same time, and Brandon, you may not like it that I say it this way, I say you cancel them back. Like, don't go on their stuff then. Like, you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. Don't talk to me. You stay over there. I'll stay over here. But I'll find people that I want to deal with. It's the same thing that Bill Maher's going with. It's really weird at times like this who the allies are and who the allies aren't. Because you can tell guys like Bill Maher, who I would say is wildly inconsistent in some ways, when it comes to speech and to political correctness and things like that, he's always been pretty much the same way. And I got a lot of respect for that. And it annoys me to no end why these people are like, well, you can't go on there, or you can't do that, or you can't do that. And as a person that has, when I ran for office and even afterwards, was very much not allowed to go on any of these shows, like I don't want to say I take offense to it, but it does bother me in some aspect. But in other aspects, now I'm just like, you know what, ignore them then, because they're useless. They're worthless. Just go where you want to go who will put you on, and, you know, the rest of them just cancel. You're like personally cancel those people.
Bob, what were you going to jump in there with?
Yeah, I was just going to say everything Alex said is spot on. The one thing he did leave out, though, is it's not as if Greenwald or Tulsi won't go on MSNBC or CNN. They don't get invited anymore. They used to. Yeah, they used to. Glenn Greenwald was on MSNBC all the time until he fought back with them. He wouldn't agree with their narrative, and they just stopped inviting him.
And it's not one person that's saying these things. Dave Rubin has said this for years now. It seemed like it seemed this long. These guys have been around for years now. And you brought up two people. You brought up Bill Maher and Jimmy Dore this week because of how Bill Maher responded on Friday about the anthem stuff, and he talked about some different things. Dore just shredded him. Like it was so strange to hear Jimmy Dore rant and raving as though Bill Maher is not like 95% left enough. But this little 5 minutes to be a full on, you know, socialist, far leftist is not enough for Jimmy Dore. He was saying so much absurd things about Bill Maher. You're like, have you ever watched this man's show and understand his shtick? He even, I kid you not, I wish I had found all this and been able to pull the video, because what I heard was someone else talking about it, and I couldn't figure out how to find a video clip I could use of just Dore doing it. It can't be that hard to find. I actually should just go through the YouTube and find the clip. But he basically joke canceled him. He's like, at one point he said, he's like, Bill shouldn't say that joke, doesn't he know? And it was like, seriously, Jimmy Dore, you basically failed comedian who's now just a commentator is going after Bill Maher, who started as a comedian, who's now made it as a talk show host. It's like it. And that's what I'm getting to with this left thing. It's like where they are on that scale can move. And I agree with Glenn. I think Glenn Greenwald is probably, if there's any role model in American modern history of free speech and living and dying with this is a guy that lives in South America under death threats because that he did for Snowden. Mm-hmm. And I believe he's also connected with trying to help Bradley Manning when Bradley was trying to leak documents himself. Mm-hmm. So to know that it's all turned on a dime because of, quote, Tucker Carlson. We're going to get to an example when we talk about Nicki Minaj again. One of her tweets is he would, because of what she did with the Tucker thing, people would go, well, don't you know he's a white supremacist? Well, don't you know he's this? She's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, she's in the middle of it too. Like, because of this one little thing, and you guys know she is no conservative, right? It's like she's in that same, she's 95% this, but she wavered this little topic just for a moment, and they're coming right at her with the sticks. Going, get back in line. You get back into your little socialist marching spot. Let me run through a couple more of the concepts. Was that accusations are enough for them? Right? We don't have to treat an accusation as truth. We saw this with the Kavanaugh case. Obviously, we just saw this a little bit with last week or so when we were talking about the Met Gala. They love to cosplay being a revolutionary, right? We saw this with AOC, right? She's cosplaying, she's playing dress up like she's going to tax the rich and it matters, while she's at a $30,000 ticket gala made with a dress made by a woman who owes like $100,000 in taxes, and she's in the middle of like foreclosure and all this other nonsense. Like they cosplay, they role play being something, but they're just not. We saw it with Chaz. Remember the Chaz ridiculousness where we're going to just make a little fake city? And remember the guy like planted like plants on top of the sod? They didn't even toil up the ground. They just like put a couple plants on the ground. And you're like, it was just like one of the terms called LARPing. You guys know what that is? Live action role playing. It's something like the dress up people do, like medieval people, the medieval times people. They call that LARPing. Military, they have these military reenactments. They'll do those too. That's called LARPing. So these different things fit this way of looking at the left. And when you go to like Facebook and Twitter, this was the one for me, and I put a big star next to me. They talk to you like you're a child. They talk to you like you're a child. And man, I tell you what, I just had this because I posted about the border with the guy, the cowboy shot. You see the little migrant running right next to him down on the border. And I made a Django reference. And this person wrote, racist much? And I'm like, well, I don't think you have watched Django or Django Unchained to understand the anti-racist message of those films, to understand what I'm doing and trying to bring up the fact that we're using cowboy. How failed is our border policy? It's just a free fall that we have cowboys literally with like roping people or whatever. It's just, it is insane how they will talk like they know something and they know nothing. What do you think, Bob? So we're trying to paint all of this world that we can barely relate to. And you guys are more libertarian than me, which means when you do those like sociology, so you guys are so much more fact-driven, data-driven, and Bob is way more than Alex is even. Bob is just all about these numbers and facts, and this is how Bob is. Libertarians are more like that. Whereas on the left, it's all about emotions and feelings, and it's just, it is what it is. And I think it's it's still anecdotal. It is a generalization. I understand that I can own all that. But I thought it was a very fair way to try to better understand, or at least document a way to understand who some of these people are and why they act the way they do. Any last thoughts?
Yeah. Guys, one time I read this article pretty recently from some economist. I don't remember his name, but he said that, we should never try to cancel people from their humanity, right? Yeah. Or their livelihoods, but we should cancel them. Person. Or no, we should cancel them from groups if they insist on violating their tenets and all that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the examples he would give were If you're supposed to be, if you support the military interventionism or a post-school choice for poor and middle class, you should stop calling yourself a liberal, right? If you support massive spending and debt and military intervention, you should stop calling yourself a conservative, right? If you support abortion, if you support taxpayers' money for abortion, if you are okay with suing a bunch of nuns for birth control or whatever, you shouldn't. Maybe you should be canceled for being a Catholic. That's his general thought. Cancel them from groups because they're not following the tenets. As a small L libertarian, I should be canceled as one if I'm all rah for, yes, let's continue funneling money to Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemen. Right? I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? That's the theory. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
on that?
and I think I think there's. I don't know, the purist label, the purist stuff is very difficult for me.
It should never go to your livelihood, and
that's correct.
You as a person,
unperson somebody. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, but I don't want people like this was one of the things, like, when you guys and like when Alex and you were running for office, one of the things for me with the libertarian thing and it wasn't you, it wasn't even, it's not Adrian's, but there were other people, and I wasn't libertarian enough for them. I would never have been able to have run for office. I never would have been able to be part of it all, because I was never going to be libertarian enough, because I was still mentally working out different issues for myself. I was still going through my own, my own faith walk. I was still going through, how to even craft real world application of certain things. I'm on board with 70, 80, 90% of it, but there's these little pieces, and sometimes it would just be a piece that would pop up for a while and be like, well, I'm not quite sure how to digest that one or whatever. It is hard to have the purity test, but I will say the thing is I don't think people on the right, libertarians, conservatives, are unpersoning people. That's a leftist thing by today's current climate. Now, I'm not saying that's always been the case. Obviously, went through the religious right phase where people, the Jerry Falwells and stuff, you're not Christian enough, and you're not this, and you're not this. So there is still pieces of things that don't fit that narrative, but I do think that for the most part, that's a pretty fair way of talking about it.
Well, I think that the Big L Libertarian Party in and of itself, one of the biggest tragedies that you have is they probably do more to repel people to the message than they ever do to bring them in. It's almost like you have to go there and stay there in spite of those people, not because of those people. And then most of the people that are really good purveyors of the message, with the exception of Spike Cohen, the last VP candidate from the LP, even though he was young, I think Spike does a great job. I think he does a phenomenal job. And I do think you're getting more people into the party that aren't like this. So I don't want to indict the current leadership of the LP in this category, but I definitely know from 2010 to 2018 or 2010 to 2016 is that they did more to repel people out of the party because of that purity test. And I think that the purity test is wrong. I think that going down this road I think going down the road of liberty is a path. And I would say, and Brandon, I think you'd be a good example of this, where you were at in 2010 and where you're at now is not nearly the same space. And the reason it's not is because you needed that experience and those examples, and you needed to be able to work through it on your own with someone offering either things of encouragement or at least answering questions or something like that. If they spent more time just allowing people to get there, I think that they would do a lot better. I hope that's going to be the case moving forward, because I am a Big L libertarian again. So I'm back in the party itself, and I'm not really playing any kind of an active role or anything like that.
Well, Alex, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Let me ask you a question. Do you feel the same about Glenn Beck?
What do you mean? He's gotten further left?
He's kind of in the Brandon
libertarian mode.
He's kind of in the Brandon mode, yeah.
Now, okay, in all fairness, I ain't heard Beck in a while, so I haven't heard Beck in a long time. But I will say I did notice a movement towards, towards liberty or towards the government's the problem. Mm-hmm. I did notice that much more and more. Any issue I have with Glenn Beck really is personal. He's one of those people that, like, we were calling and reaching out and doing all this stuff when I was running for office, and me and Adrian were, and they blocked Adrian. They wouldn't take the email. Like, it was like when you listen to what he was saying in 2010, and then we were responding to him and be like, hey, this is what we got going on, and this and this and this. And for him to really just ignore it was almost one of those things where, like, I don't believe anything that you say now. And it took me a long time of my own personal, like, jadedness on that one to kind of get past it a little bit. I mean, I still don't like the other guy, the Stu guy that's with him. I still hate that guy's guts. No getting around that. But there are some things that he's done that I tend to like. And it always seems to me like now he really does look for a non-governmental solution to these problems, especially with, like, getting the people out of places or going after, like, child traffickers. Like, I think he realizes that government's just going to cause a problem. You better find another way to do it.
He just invested his own money to do some of that stuff, though. I mean, that's just the power of the private. It's like people always say, well, the poor won't be taken care of, whatever. Well, Beck just went and got planes. Beck just figured it out. Millions and millions of dollars. Let me ask you about Dave Smith. What do you guys think about Dave Smith?
I like him.
Alex, you know much about Dave Smith?
I
think there's a dog and pony show element there, but I do think there's a way that because his comedy is so good and he thinks on his feet so well, it's a way of broadening your tent. To be honest, I'm not sure it's about a policy thing, but I think it is a well-draw the pen.
I don't want to go after him too much, though. And I like the Mises Caucus guys, and I actually, I do have a good relationship with the Mises Caucus people, at least in Florida. So sometimes it seems like they almost piss people off for the sake of pissing people off. And I think that's their strategy. I just don't agree with it, I guess, as much anymore. If you're going to have that, and I think that if you're going to say to libertarians that we're going to take over your party and stuff like that, like, if you're looking for division, that's kind of like 101 how you do it.
But Alex, would you say that the other libertarians drew first blood on that? Going after the Mises Caucus? Trying to keep them out?
Oh, I think so. With the Joe Jorgensen thing, with how some of that stuff just went down, I thought kind of did. I mean, at least maybe not the Mises 100%, but just there's whole factions of libertarians, and it was like, I don't know. For me, I don't know. We went from Gary Johnson to that, and it was a massive step back for me. Like, I can't even take you people seriously.
And you got people in the party that are like slamming Tom Woods for everything he says.
Yeah, I have no idea what these people were thinking.
Now, hold on, Brandon. Just so you know, I actually did make an endorsement in the 2020 primary. Or was it 26? No, the 2016 primary. I actually endorsed Vermin Supreme.
You gotta be honest, man. My daughter asked me about Vermin Supreme once. I said, listen, it's better than voting for some of these other knuckleheads. Go ahead. You know my support. Well, I mean, they're not going to win, but it's still, it's a better, yeah.
I think you should embrace the joke that the federal offices are now. I really like, and I never thought in a million years I'd ever done that, but it was him and Spike that were running that election cycle. No. It was the 2021 that I endorsed them. Never mind. I endorsed them in the 2021. Yeah. And I thought it would have been a great idea for the LP to do it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you would have given the LP a lot of crap for it, but I really was thinking they should just say, screw it. Don't even try to remotely be serious. Put up Vermin. More people will hear about it than anybody else. And Vermin is quick on his feet.
I have to be honest, in 2020, you would have got a pretty deaf ear from me because I was all about Trump just because he was breaking the media apparatus. And I was like, I see so few wins right now that was one I thought if he stayed in office, yes, there's going to be so much more division and more hearings or whatever, but he will continue to break the media apparatus. What I didn't realize was it's broken anyway, and it continues to stay broken because they can't not talk about Trump. So it was a win-win for me anyway, because now I don't know anyone who considers CNN a viable place. I don't even know how they exist in the numbers that they have because everyone knows it's just a joke and a fallacy. Like, it's just so over the top. Anyway, we're way all over the map. let me get to this COVID thing. I want to get to Bob real quick about this nonsense. I haven't a chance to tell you about this, Bob. This was a press release that we were sent over here to the Tampa Dispatch. Got to put it up there. This organization, this is the gentleman that Bob was talking about earlier, Joseph Ladapo, I assume is how you probably say it. Defend the Science is the organization that sends the press release. They're saying he pushes poison, which is how they describe hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And it goes through bashing Ron DeSantis, the dangerous misinformation in the media, and he supported people taking poison. This is direct quotes from their press release, right? So it says, this is their title. DeSantis appoints misinformation fanatic as Florida general surgeon, and he's peddling dangerous misinformation, quack cures like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. I'm sure Joe Rogan might disagree. And he called massive distraction. Now, so the thing is, I wanted to share with you guys. I posted this, which is absurd on its face, and trust me, folks. I don't hide my bias. It's in there. You have a tone of where I'm coming from. Like, I don't think this is the appropriate way to, if you like this guy or not, this is not the appropriate way to attack him. And then after I posted about 15, 20 minutes, I thought to myself, who is this guy? Who are these people? Who is Defend the Science? So I went to Defend the Science, and this is something that I saw. Hang on one second. Let me make sure I got to switch the screens. This is something I saw in the 2020 election. I had not seen previously, but I know it happened regularly. But this was a regular thing in that election. This is a website. Science is under attack, and we've already seen. So this is just this website. This is how it's all put together with all of this. There's no contact information at all. Just a Twitter and Facebook. You end up in a loop. I had to reverse engineer who owned the site, and that took me to another site, a sister site called coronaviruswarroom.org. And basically it's the same thing with a less professional look, which I thought was kind of strange. Anyway, after a while, I eventually figured out that these are basically Biden and Obama people. They're literally they are literally like people that work for the campaign. Here is one. One of the two people, this is Corey Day. He is he's Biden's Minnesota senior advisor. He came over through Minnesota as one of their labor union type groups, campaigned for them. Here he goes, Democratic Farmer Labor Party's local, state, and federal election campaigns. The other guy is basically the same kind of thing. Let me see here. They're connected to all of these different organizations and things like that, but there's no information for you to know all of that. There's nothing transparent about where this comes from. So you get these fake websites making press releases, manipulating the public conversation, demonizing an individual on this topic when we're having this, quote, misinformation battle. Bob, are you even remotely surprised, or you're like, well, okay, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, no, first time I ever heard of it, I have to say. But the fact that, who is this guy who is a labor person in Minnesota?
He's an activist.
Yeah. How is he on Defend the Science or Coronavirus War Room? Isn't that what they always tell us? You got to have the certain credentials to be even speak about any of this stuff.
No credentials.
You can't even be like, who's that one guy, Scott Atlas? He can't speak about it because he's not an infectious disease doctor. He's a radiologist. I heard that 1,000 times.
This is Coronavirus War Room. Donald Trump's failure to prepare America for this crisis made us left safe. There you go. That's what you see. This is what you get.
That must be
generic looking website. There's stuff in here, but there's nothing. It's just this generic stuff. And I had to reverse engineer like who owned it on GoDaddy and get addresses, and they're registered to like DC and Minnesota, and down the rabbit's hole I go. But I just thought you're exactly right, Bob. I was like, Alex, we're being lectured all the time about who you're listening to. Bob and I are not allowed to even talk. I don't know about you. Bob, have you had this happen yet? I spoke to someone, And that person spoke to someone else who knows me intimately. And that person says, you shouldn't listen to Brandon. He's not a doctor.
No, that's never.
I am not. I'm just talking to someone personally. But it repulses so much that they're like literally turning on someone, even in their close circles. Like, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, you shouldn't listen to that person.
Well, bro, I think you need to do what Hannity does every show, man. He goes on and says, I'm not Dr. Hannity. I'm not a doctor, so I want you to talk to your own doctor about this stuff. He says it like every single show.
Well, I think you're threatened
you
to.
start doing that.
I think even YouTube is. Well, I think YouTube threatens us. Like, we're supposed to say all that nonsense, and I actually say it as part of my natural conversation. Just talk to your doctor about all of these things. I got to be honest. If I am sick, guys, and I can't speak for myself, please tell them. If they want to give me ivermectin, they think it's in my best interest, tell them to do it. Hydroxychloroquine, he would want it. Trust me, if you think he should have it, give it to him. If you think he should have this, roll him on his belly and give him that. Whatever it takes, do whatever it takes. I don't care. I don't. It's just. I told someone else, I said, listen, I don't understand where we are, because people, it's not like we're talking to people as though it's May of 2020 when it is September of 2021. People have been dealing with this stuff for 18 months. Alex, are you still finding that people, it's like they still are pretending some sort of weird crisis mode of lack of information when there's tons of information?
Yeah, no, and look, you have a lot of people that have been completely deceived. You have a media and a government that is no way near actually giving the full story on this virus and what it's going to do. And I hate to say we found out this week, or one of the things that's quickly coming to light is that the difference between this vaccine that they have and every other vaccine that's been out there is that this vaccine will not really help towards herd immunity, and that this virus will work itself through the population until we get to herd immunity. And that's just the way it is. I mean, I hate to say false science, but that's just the way viruses work. I don't need to be an epidemiologist to understand how the viruses actually work at the end of the day, because the vaccine that we're putting out there right now will lessen the effects. That's true. However, you can still get coronavirus, and you can still transmit coronavirus even if you get the vaccine. And it seems like that the vaccine wanes in effectiveness. Is that really the thing that's going to work for everybody? Is that enough people actually get the coronavirus, and then it works itself through the population that way? I don't understand why that's such a controversial thing to say, but it seems like everyone's afraid to say that, and that's why they want to use this. It's the pandemic of the unvaccinated, not the pandemic of the vaccinated, when it's kind of showing pretty clear that there are places that have 90% rates of vaccine acceptance, and they're getting outbreaks. I mean, how can you blame the unvaccinated when everybody that got it was vaccinated? So it doesn't need to be scary, though. We don't need the fear. And that's what I wish. Again, I know I'm not going to get what I want, but that's what I wish would happen, is that we could eliminate the fear of it and just tell people straight up what's going to happen, what they can do to mitigate the bad things that happen from it, and just move on with life. Open things back up, let people go. You want to wear a mask, wear it. You don't want to wear a mask, don't wear it. You want to take the vaccine, take it. You don't want to take the vaccine, don't take it. It seems pretty simple. Like, it doesn't seem like it's complicated. And yet you see video after video of people that are walking around like targets that are harassing people that aren't wearing masks. And that they sound so righteous in what they're saying. And look, I don't wear a mask when I go out. I would really love for one of these people to have the balls to actually walk up to me and start trying to shame me for not wearing a mask. I really wish, like, when I see some of these videos, I'm like, why can't I be in that store when that happens? Why can't I be in there when that guy because they're doing it to women. Like, that's the funny thing. Like, there's guys going around, and then they're doing it to women because they know they can get away with it. because that guy knows if he did it to a dude, he'd have whooped his rear. He'd have beat him down like he stole something. And I just
let me bring in somebody here who wants to be added into the stream. I think they're going to agree with you, Alex. How are you doing there, my friend?
Oh, what's up, Pop? I'm driving.
It's my son Jake, who's going to go by Jay tonight for some reason. Jake, did you see the video of the person harassing the little lady in Target?
No, I can't watch it and not be angry about it for a whole week.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to see what you would do. But I have a treat for you anyway. So we'll go to that and we'll see what you guys think about this ridiculousness. And you tell me, how well would this go anywhere other than California? All right, let's see here. It's still spinning. I gotta take a second, I'm sure. See if it'll play nice with us. All right, skip the ad. Is my problem. So, Jake, how are you driving?
What's that?
Where are you going? What's going on?
I'm going to get
working?
some milk.
What's going on?
No, just getting milk.
Milk. You got your mask? Do I need to worry about you?
Oh, yeah, I left that at home. In the trash where it belongs.
All right. In the trash where it belongs. All right, well, let's if it'll ever stop spinning, we'll get to this video. So this is California. It is a grocery store. Maskless people decided that they were going to. This may never load. I apologize, gentlemen. Anyway, I'll just give a little setup and then we'll just fast forward if it ever pops up. A group of maskless people. I'm just going to use their terminology because it's been more entertaining. It's got to be at least a dozen of them. They go into this grocery store in California and they just start getting food. Just start shopping, and they don't make it more than 5 feet. And there's this lady standing there with her arms out, like, no, you guys can't be in here like that. Blah blah blah. You can't, you can do this, and you can hear them all berating them, following them, and all sorts of stuff. And oh, geez, it's not pretty. Let's go back to where we were. Go back to our stream here. Now it wants to load. Hold on. Sorry, guys. The maskless group. The maskless group is about to invade Trader Joe's in Santa Cruz, California. It has about 300,000 views. So they go walking in. Can you guys hear it okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're here.
Oh, man, this is crazy.
It's got issues.
Sorry, guys, we haven't had this kind of problem with it. Yeah, it does. It has issues. Maybe everybody's watching this video. You can actually see on the right, if you look to the right to that still, you can see her having her hands up in her mask, but she's like telling them, no, what are you doing? You can't come in here without masks. You can't come in here without masks. I just wanted you to see how crazy this gets, though. Okay. Let's get into the meeting.
Yeah, the troopers.
So these people are freaking out. Please leave.
Why are y'all doing this? This is the grocery store.
The pregnant lady has food.
We love you. We love you. Awesome. We don't want to have trouble with y'all. Okay.
So let me jump ahead. They try to put their food down, and they won't do it. They take the food away. You can't have your food. You can't buy food here. Now watch this. Look.
Hey, we paid already. We'll get your money.
That caring about belly bump.
Gives it away.
Next Saturday.
Oh man, can you imagine the insanity of us being in a grocery store and seeing people treat other people this way? There's no way I would tolerate this kind of nonsense. What do you think, Jake? You gonna let somebody grow up on you like that?
I think that lady needs to have her gut registered as an assault weapon. I saw her use it in an aggressive manner.
She just belly thumped that old lady. Yeah, that was pretty good actually. That mask crazy person grabs the food and throws it and says, "Oh, you can't have your food. You can't shop here." Basically, I left the money on the counter. Go get your money. That's California. Alex, what do we do to save the union? How do we save the union when that's going on, my friend?
Detach California.
Shut off their electricity and water because it doesn't come from in the state, and just put the National Guard along the edge and tell Utah, keep them out for us, man.
We were talking about this.
I was just going to say, it's funny. The title says it all. They're actually calling this an invasion, right?
The maskless people invaded.
Right. Invasion. Yeah, is this an insurrection of sorts? Another word they like to use. I mean, come on now.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, isn't it? I was just, I don't know what to say. I think it's crazy. And we're in such a weird place. Bob, we were talking about some of the examples that we could pull up. Obviously, London Breed in San Francisco, she gets caught being at a club. Nobody has masks on. The Emmys, no one has a mask on. Again, we're having problems with our YouTube if it's going to do that to us. So I don't want to pull up another video. But Seth Rogen actually got up and did jokes about they kind of lied to us. They said we're going to be in a tent. We're all in here. We probably shouldn't be in here like this. And he kind of got a little slap on the wrist, didn't he, Bob?
Yeah. Apparently the producers of the Emmys were really torqued off at him for going off script. That was the actual term, for going off script. And then they really went out of their way to get quotes from the Los Angeles Department of Health saying everything was approved in advance and all kinds of nonsense like that. But I mean, I think Seth Rogen opened up a lot of people's eyes, because it went hog wild on Twitter too. So,
Jake, do you run into many people, because you have to be face to face with the public, I think probably more than the three of us do, other than like coworkers. Do you see a lot of crazy mask nonsense, or do they say things to you like, why don't you have one on, or anything like that? What do you see when you're out and about doing your thing?
It's never brought up, I'll be honest, and I don't know if it's because of our geographic location and where we're at, or maybe it's the state that we're in, but nobody that comes into my shop's wearing a mask. And even then, even if they are, which is few between, mind you, it's never brought up. They don't come in and ask me why am I not wearing a mask, and frankly, it's none of their business. And hey, look, if you want to wear a mask, have at it. Go home and watch CNN or something. But it's rare as it is.
Is this the same guy I knew a few years ago?
Yes. Apple tree. Yeah,
you guys, you know what's so ironic about all this, though? Look at what Denmark did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, they just threw it in.
They just threw all that stuff out the window. They said, we're going to go ahead and live our lives.
Well, they said people are max. They said that they claim they're vaccinated to like 70 to 90% or something, depending on the area, and that's good enough. They're like, well, we're good enough. That's about the best we can do. Forget it. That's it. Everybody back to your life.
And Singapore right now is seeing record amounts of COVID, but the president, or whatever his title is, said, we're going to learn to live with the virus. And as far as the herd immunity, I do question if that's ever achievable. We don't see herd immunity with flu, or ever even come close to that.
Yeah, it's always changing so fast. There's no way. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
No, that is a good point, by the way. I mean, I here's the thing, though. But when they talked about the vaccines themselves, it doesn't stop you from getting it, though. So if it doesn't stop you from getting it, then really it does come down to just a personal choice at that point. The one argument you keep hearing people make is that if you're unvaccinated, then you're infecting other people. Well, if you're vaccinated, you're infecting other people too. So now your whole thing is moot then at that point. It doesn't matter, because look, if you find, we have test kits here at my office. If somebody comes down with it, like, I have to cancel 2 to 3 cleanings a week, because they'll call me up and say, we got COVID. We don't go out there for 2 weeks after that. Like, we won't do it. If I got a team that gets it, they're out of the field for 10 days. We're not going to keep them going, because look, those are mitigation things that we can do in order to slow down, the spread all over the place. But at the same time, we're not going to make anybody get vaxxed. I mean, we're not going to do that. If you want to, I have some employees that have, and some employees that haven't. We didn't ask them either way. Matter of fact, in the meeting, we told them, if you want to get vaxxed, get vaxxed. If you don't want to get vaxxed, don't get vaxxed. We'll have no mandate. If any people call and ask us, we tell them that. Like we say, well, the private medical business of our employees is not really something that I can tell you. But what we tell people is, if you want to get vaxxed, get vaxxed. If you don't, you don't. And you know what? We've had very few people that have told us that we're going to cancel because of the policy, but we do have people on a pretty frequent basis that call us up to say, we got COVID, so give it a couple of weeks before you come back out the next time.
Yeah. But yeah, Alex, you do have the luxury of not having 100 employees. Yeah, at least for now.
True. No, that's true.
At least for now.
No, that's true. No, it's true. Well, I know I wouldn't want to go north of 50, because then there's a whole bunch of other stuff you got to do for federal regulations. Yeah. Let alone if you get to 100. I mean, oh my gosh, why would you? Like, at that point, it's almost like, for all the headaches you have to have as a business owner beforehand, when you get to 50, it's even worse. Like, it's like headaches on steroids at that point. And, I wouldn't want any of that stuff. At this point, I don't want any of that stuff. And again, I am getting much more of an anarchist every day, where and it's not even an anarchist for any other reason than every time I see a problem, I see no way whatsoever that the government can provide any solution. And anything that they're going to do is just going to geek it up even more than what is already being done anyway. So, like, I'm really at the point now where, I mean, and maybe I hang out with Adrian too much. I'll freely admit that. I'm sure he's rubbing off on me in a very bad way. But
I don't know, man. I at least took half the black pill too, so I'm with you there. I'd be remiss if we didn't try to squeeze this in before, just in case we have to lose Jake, because I know it's very, very important to deal with the appropriate age audience, make sure we're connecting. And Jake, I don't know if you watched our last episode. We're totally in tune with the people here. We are up to date with all the most important things of pop culture. We talked about Nicki Minaj. Now, I don't know if you know about the Nicki Minaj story. She had a great tweet about the vaccine and gave a very nice anecdotal story that we're not all quite sure is valid or not. But she's been put in timeout on Twitter. But I want to let you know, it's okay. Nicki did not go out without a fight. She had some things to say on her way out the door because Tucker Carlson liked what she had to say. And evidently, that is not the appropriate way to respond to things. So she says, right here, this was her first tweet. This is on our way out the door. Right. I can't speak to, agree with, even look at someone from a particular party. People aren't human anymore. If you're black and a Democrat tells you to shove marbles up your a-hole, you simply have to. If another party tells you to look out for that bus and you stand there and get hit. And then this is the response from the idiot. This is what you were talking about, Alex, the NPC. You know he's a white nationalist, right? Then she says, the black woman, racist Reid, lied on me and made people attack me. But I quote this man who did the opposite. Okay, F him. Yashua hoo. Happy now? Brain dead? No, Nicki. He's a racist and a white supremacist. These people are nuts. She goes, you know how many U.S. presidents were white supremacists? She goes, oh, please. Just stay on topic. Y'all can't do that. The topic is asking questions is okay. But let's make the topic. Nicki talks to white racists so you can all sleep better tonight, dummies. I got to be honest. I may never listen to any of her music, but I'm a fan of behavior like this. Jake, what do you think about it?
Well, first I need you to run it through Google Translate so I can have half a clue to what she's even talking about.
I translated the best I could, son. She used all these abbreviations. I broke them up. I can speak Nicki Minaj now. I've had a whole week and a half of practice.
Maybe I'm too smooth-brained or something. I don't know.
Nicki Minaj is
well, whatever. We'll see. I'm not convinced. These people flip-flop week to week anyway.
Well, one person that is consistent, and I think it's only important to we do go full callback, right? Because we had last week, we had Nicki Minaj. But we had racist Reid, very appropriate nickname, I felt. She's in the news again. There she is, making the headlines. This week, it's because she was talking about in her show the syndrome known as missing white woman syndrome. In other words, we care about this person. We don't care about all those missing black women. So did you know there was a missing white woman syndrome? You suffering from MWWS?
Look,
Alex,
no mistake.
have you heard of missing white woman syndrome?
Well, I haven't heard of this, though. But I will say this. There is no doubt in my mind that this woman is, without a doubt, a vehement racist. And that she is...
Yes.
She's not just racist, but it's like it's a weird kind of ideological racism, too, to where she'll like you if you're black as long as you're on her side. And she'll see you as an ally if you're white, as long as you're on her side, but then we'll chuck you to the weeds either way as soon as she can chuck you to the weeds. The problem is that if this story would have happened even with it didn't matter the color. It really was just a story. Sometimes these stories catch the media's eye, and that's all it is. But she has to make it about race because it's the only card she has, because other than that, she's ideologically bankrupt.
I actually watched the clip.
Oh, did you? Okay. What do you?
Oh yeah, and I threw up in my mouth a little bit. It's so backhanded because it started off kind of sweet, talking about like, oh, the family lost this girl. There's still an ongoing investigation, and then out of left field it comes in and like, but we're not talking about the black women that ain't here. Well, it's because you don't. And there's plenty of stories, I'm sure, and it's unfortunate to say there's plenty of stories, right? But statistically speaking, right, a lot of these black female individuals that go missing are inherently because of other black individuals, and it goes directly against their narrative. So how could they report on that if because it's not a white person problem. It's not because it's not white people or abducting these black females or murdering these black females. Typically, it's another black individual on black crime, effectively, is what I'm trying to say. So it just doesn't go along with their narrative altogether. So of course they don't talk about it. If she's got such a freaking problem about it not being, isn't she a reporter, for Christ's sakes? I mean, well, the reporter said, well, what are we supposed to do? Is this a reporter who's whining about black people not being reported in the news? Well, dang it, lady. Isn't that your job?
Yeah,
Christ.
What do you think, Bob? Is that her job?
Jay kind of stole my thunder.
Fogging my windows up, I'm so pissed.
That, right? Because when I watched the video, I was like, she would say like, yeah, I had friends send me these clips about these other people that were missing, but they're not getting any coverage. I'm thinking, well, lady, you have a 1 hour platform every night. You told us last week that you have 2 million Twitter followers. Why aren't you covering this? You have the platform for it. I never hear you covering all the people that were shot in Chicago. Do you know any of their names? No. She has the platform, and she's complaining about other people not using their platform for these people that aren't being spoken about. I mean, that's wrong, I think.
Well, I think there's a weird place, and this is the same thing with Hollywood. I think we're running so long on time. I don't want to backtrack to the Emmys. I'll do a little video on that myself. These people win these awards, and they get up there and they talk about, I was sometimes the only black person in the room, and it's still great to be Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I've never been asked about who should be hiring and casting for all this stuff that's been coming out of Hollywood for decades. So if they got a racist problem, I would say quit lecturing us about it. They got their own problem. There's this weird, again, this projection, right? They project this stuff onto us like we're guilty. It was the Harvey Weinstein stuff too, right? We're the problem. It's a societal problem. I'm like, what bubble are you people living in? None of us are like that. If Joy Reid, Jake, you hit it. Joy, if you have so many stories and so much you need to cover them. Alex, do your part, man. Start talking about this. This is a crisis out there. These missing white women syndrome is distracting us from the real crisis in our country.
The real thing that we should be talking about is the new Air Force or Star Force uniforms that the government made.
I guess that's a transition. We
Oh,
can
They're
do
so
that.
ugly.
I want to hear
Force
more on
uniform.
unattended baggage.
I wouldn't want to steal his. I wouldn't want to steal his thunder from an unattended baggage. He can keep that there. Let's make sure we throw that up there.
Hold
So
on.
we haven't done that this show.
Hold on, Brandon. Come on now. Have you not seen these uniforms yet?
Oh yeah. I said, I got the window spinning. I'm just trying to get it to come up. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. How can you not see that they're just trying to make it look like Star Trek?
They're exactly like Star Trek.
Nerd.
Well, actually, I thought this one was a little more. Wait, let me make sure I get it open right, because we've got our window problems tonight. This one is not Star Trek. It was something else. You guys would probably know. I think that might be the bad guys in Star Wars. It may not be the way you want your officers to dress. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, there are some similarities to other sci-fi. I'm definitely not denying that. I just thought Galactic Empire might not be the way to go. I mean, what?
Fire the proton torpedoes, Corporal.
Nerds.
Yeah, the Trek ones, I didn't see a good side-by-side on Trek. The one that, this is another one I thought was pretty good. It is a little bit Trek, but it's also Battlestar Galactica. Because we have they're just so intellectually bankrupt, they can't even come up with Space Force uniforms, by the way. Space Force Guardians is what they are. So there's Battlestar Galactica, and there's, of course, James T. Kirk, the last man of Star Wars. Everyone else is a pansy.
Yeah, that's the uniform I was thinking of.
Yeah, this is Battlestar Galactica on the right. So between the Star Wars Empire and the Battlestar Galactica, that's what they're going for. And I'm like, unless they're going to go with Elon Musk and they're really going to do something impressive, I really don't care at this point. I'm just like, I would trust the government so little to be successful. You can give me a free ticket and I wouldn't go. I'd be like, there's no way I'm trusting you people. Where's Elon's missile? I'll go up with Elon, but I'm not going up with anything these people are paying for. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Bob, let me let you speak to this. You sent me over a link to a great debate. We can all mark our calendars. The Soho Forum is doing a debate with Bill Kristol and Scott Horton, which is basically a night where Scott Horton gets to verbally abuse and beat up on Bill Kristol. Mark your calendars, October 4th.
It's funny.
2 hours of punching on Bill.
I stumbled across this link about 10 minutes before I came on. I'm like, wow, I want to watch this. If people aren't familiar, Scott Horton is possibly the most knowledgeable guy of the shenanigans in the Middle East. He is so sharp on that topic. And Bill Kristol is just one of the worst people ever. So it's going to be. It's going
He's a
to
buffoon
be
on foreign policy.
Yeah. So
October 4th from 6 to 8. It is the Soho Forum. I'm sure it will have stuff online that we can probably tap to, maybe get some highlights or something we can do as well, because it is good. Anytime Scott Horton gets into this stuff, it's always great.
I can't believe
Jake, you were able to
agreed to this.
Why would he even do this? I would never debate Scott Horton. I don't know about you guys. I'm not sure where I agree or disagree with Scott Horton on something, but I'm smart enough to know not to step into the ring. That's like saying you're going to fight an actual boxer. It's like, no.
He knows.
You have to pick your battles.
So much intricate detail about all this stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, it's way over my head.
Yeah. Jake, what topics or things have you listened to or watched lately that you think we should also pay some attention to?
Well, for the sake of my blood pressure, I'll be honest, there hasn't been a whole lot that I've been paying attention to. I just happened to catch a Joy Reid thing this morning. I did see Alex Jones on Tim Pool. That's what you ought to do. Try to get Alex Jones on here. He'll just hijack your whole podcast, and he's just entertaining anyway.
We have Alex. Alex just has to go into the right mindset, and he'll just start going, it's the globalist. It's all about the globalist. If you would just slow down for a minute, I'll tell you how it goes. See, back when we went undercover, it's all the same.
You're on record. You're on record.
But the scary part is, Alex, rewind the clock to 2010, and now look at how right Alex has been on so many things, and you just think to yourself, how scary is the world? If he's that right to this point, how much more right is he? Like, I'm just like, it actually scares me more to think about that.
Yeah.
It really does. It really
well,
does.
Let me get after that milk, y'all.
All right. See you, buddy. Thanks for hopping in with us.
Love you, Pop. See you later, Pop. Alex.
That was good. It's fun to have a fourth person pop in and say, hey, if nothing else. What else do you guys want to talk about? I had one other thing I wanted to show you, only because we didn't really do crazy, and it's appropriate that we at least have some sort of crazy. Bob would be disappointed in me if I didn't find a way to disturb him or make him smile or laugh for at least a day or so. And in the back of his mind, he's also wondering how long until Brandon posts that video on our YouTube page, and then we'll see what happens. Because at this point, I'm not sure we're ever going to be monetized, because even if we get to the criteria of the subscribers, because we're getting, we get a few every week. Every topic we have is flagged with COVID, climate change, probably abortion. Every single one of them is flagged. They're going to demonetize nearly every single video. This one's just as bad. They're not going to ever monetize a video like this. Let me see if I can get this to pop in. This is along that lines of mental illness, but we're not allowed to call it mental illness, right? We're not allowed to do that. This person lives out her life as a gender. She identifies in a way. I'm trying to make sure I get this right here. All right, well, we'll see if we can get it to work. She lives as a clown. A clown, yes. I'm no fan of clowns. You might even say I'm anti-clown, to be honest. I am no fan of clowns. While this is loading, I'll be happy to be, lay on the therapy couch for you, gentlemen. Yeah, when I was a child, Poltergeist came out. Little clown scared me to death. I was like a little child and should not have been watching the creepy clown underneath my bed, especially whenever my sister had a creepy clown. Then I was probably too young to watch it on TV for the first time back in the 1980s when it came on. And whenever Pennywise comes out of the grate with those claws, yeah, needless to say, I also didn't sleep well at that point either. So I have issues. I will perfectly admit it. And if this video would ever load, cannot believe we're having this kind of problems tonight. Sorry, guys. It'll load when it loads at this point. I don't even know why it's taking so long. Here she is. Wait a minute. We're getting clowns. So she has several videos that deal with different topics. Here she is. I want to mute her. I don't want her to think that we're making fun of her. I actually am very concerned. Yep. So she has different videos that talk about how she lives, that when she gets up in the morning, she doesn't feel right unless she gets up and puts on her makeup. She doesn't eat breakfast till she puts on her makeup. She doesn't do this until she puts on her makeup. All different things. So I have to say something else about this poor lady, or clown person. I don't know how she actually identifies as far as pronouns go. She's very transparent with her life. There's whole videos of her fighting with her significant other and all sorts of things. So, I don't know exactly where that takes us, but let's see what she has to say here.
Harassment, you're stalking him. I have one thing to say to you.
Oh, well, who knows what she'll say, because she curses a lot. So I don't want to get into that. But yeah, there is now that's a good look. There is now a clown identification as well, Bob. I don't know how you feel about that or not. I'm sure you know. I want to make sure you know, Bob.
Yeah, well, I appreciate
right there.
this story is right up there and of the most important that I saw today.
Listen, you know, we have important court cases of people who strip at work.
Does she have a job?
I don't know that I've gone deep enough into the lady's life to know where she works. I mean, I assume she does something. Maybe she lives with her parent. I don't know. I don't want to pass judgment. I really just don't know the answer to that.
No, it was a real question, because I'm just thinking, who would get up in the morning and do that to their face, and what employer would take them for a sales job? Or nobody would, right? I'm just trying to figure out what kind of work that she does.
Alex, would she be employable for you? Would be okay? She shows up at work. She's got her makeup on. She's ready to go. I mean, you said you just needed a heartbeat.
I'd find a way to make that work. I would find a way to make that work.
Right.
I think we can have a special like clown cleaning like thing where like you actually get clowns to come in and clean your house. So I would find a way to make that work.
Ka-ching.
Wrong one. Wait, I want to show it. This is her page. You can see a little better. I mean, she's all clown all the time. She's all clown all the time. Look at those eyes. I am not a joke. I'm not a killer. I'm not a stereotype. She's in different videos, and you can see sometimes there's a lot of clown going on. Sometimes there's not. So, but she. And there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know. I don't know, man. The world on YouTube is so massive. I had started making these notes of these random little circles of things. And then I started for a couple, I don't know, about 3 days. Anyone I talked to, I started asking what do you do on YouTube? What do you listen to? What do you watch? Whatever. And it was fascinating hearing the incredible diverse world that, with the billions of hours or stuff that's in this stupid machine that people listen to, from videos of people on farms to videos of abandoned properties to how-to stuff to, I don't know. What do you do, Alex? Do you just get down the YouTube rabbit hole, or is that not your thing?
No, I do YouTube. And that's last night. What I tried to do last night was I tried to find some more podcasts to start listening to. One of the video series that I'm watching is it's called Rising, which is The Hill. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen this or not, but they have a new group of people that are there because the old people left and did their own thing.
Okay.
But the new people actually aren't that bad. And Kim Newland's one of them, and I think she's pretty good. There's one guy that's like a libertarian, and then there's one guy that's like a kind of a douchey progressive. And so I like listening to some of their stuff, which is kind of nice. You know what I mean? Like I
actually always like The Hill, and I like The Hill the same way I kind of like Shapiro. I can figure out what is true and what is commentary. It's very easy for me to sort out. They're not lying to me. I don't feel like they're ever just making up a story. That's my litmus test. I don't care about all the mainstream stuff. But when it comes to the other stuff, is what they're telling me actually true? Then the entertainment and the commentary and all that factor into it. So yeah, I didn't know their staff had changed. I'll have to check that out, because I actually do like stuff that comes out of The Hill. Bob?
Yeah.
Hey, Alex, is that the same program that used to have Crystal Ball?
Yeah. Crystal and Sarger.
Yeah.
Crystal
Ball.
I love that show.
Now they've done their own thing called Breaking Points now.
Oh, okay. Good.
So
I like a lot. I listen to a lot of different talk shows, but the thing I'm kind of hooked on right now is reaction videos.
What kind of reaction videos?
All right, so there's this one dude I like to watch. His name is Jamal, aka Jamel, or something like that, and he's just about a 40-year-old black dude who has no experience with rock music from the past. So he'll play.
Oh, yes, I know who this is.
He'll play songs, and then he'll react to them, and he's turned into this massive Led Zeppelin fan, Rush fan, all those kinds of things.
No. I tell you exactly why I know who this guy is, because it took me down a rabbit hole. I'm going to pull it up while you're telling me about. Oh, I have watched this guy myself
He's
because
a
I went
super
down.
nice guy, and people send all these little rock and roll trinkets to him, and he's got them all over his wall now. But it's funny to see somebody who listens to, Whole Lot of Love for the first time and say, oh man, he gives commentary throughout the song. And there's a whole bunch of these people who do reaction videos, but I think he's the most interesting, and he's just like the super nice guy too. And so that's something I've been listening to quite a bit.
He's very, very animated watching something. So I'm going to go down a rabbit hole with you a little bit. I want to play a little audio. I don't care about the copyright strike, to be honest. So Lex Friedman, you guys know who Lex Friedman is?
No.
He's been on Rogan. He's the artificial intelligence physicist.
Yes.
Who always wears a black and white suit like Men in Black, like super genius, like makes robots, Alex. Makes robots. Okay. So he's doing a video and he's in his car. I think it's a self-driving Tesla. And he starts playing Black Betty. And I had not heard Black Betty in years. So I started listening to Black Betty and it became kind of in my little loop of Black Betty. Well, come to find out, there he is. He has a reaction to listen to Black Betty for the first time. This is incredible. Watch his face. He's like getting into it.
Oh, they wasn't lying.
So he's talking about the fact that there's this great rock song or whatever, and it got shunned on the radio stations or whatever, and they filmed a music video in their backyard and all that. So he's watching it for the first time, and I think Alex, what Bob's saying is right. Look at his face; he's so enthusiastic and interested in what is good and what is not. I have to agree, Bob. It's a great choice. It's a great way to entertain yourself for a few minutes and listen to classic rock. By the way.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to get to his facial expression. Watch his facial expression change. He loves the rocking, but here's where it gets crazy. Watch him go. Oh Jesus! Probably another couple more seconds. We're gonna get a copyright strike for sure. Oh, he's gonna stop talking.
I'm gonna tell you right now, just from the looks of things, this video probably costs about $3.
It's something we would say, right? It's something we would say or do.
In the backyard.
Let's see.
That brother out.
I gotta get to the hook though, because watch this. Are you guys familiar with this song?
Yeah.
Okay, making sure, because if people at home don't know this song, they're about ready to fall in love with this song, because if you've never heard it, you have the reaction that look at his face. It's so great. It's so great. Oh, so good. I'm sorry. Yes, Bob, I'm with you. I have listened to probably 20 of his videos. And if it's just one of those things that'll pop back in once it goes through the cycle and comes back around again. So yeah, good stuff. But yeah, if you guys ever get a chance to look up that Unsafe Space talk show with Carrie Smith, it's not, I don't know what the appeal is for me other than she's a lefty that's woken up with the red pill. And she's like, I can't believe I was part of the cult. And she just has these honest conversations with random people, and they're just interesting. And it's just them talking. She's really not as articulate as she gets credit for. She'll say these really deep things just out of the blue, but then it's back to like regular jocular conversation like what you or I would have. Alex, what were you going to say?
I hate to change subjects, but I will say they're the most important story of the day I wanted to bring up at the end. And this
okay.
is the most important story of the day. So this is in The Guardian. 2 men have been arrested after police say they found them with a car boot full of Kentucky Fried Chicken and over $100,000 in cash as they tried to cross the border despite New Zealand's strict COVID-19 lockdown. And the cops have a picture of all of this Kentucky Fried Chicken on the hood of the police car. I can't explain anymore how South Park is turning into real life when the Kentucky Fried Chicken episode ends up being real.
Yeah, I saw that story.
Are we ready? Are we ready? Can we handle it? I think we can, folks. That's incredible. That's incredible. Way to go, New Zealand. That's just incredible. Because it's
food.
And this happens all the time, by the way. We get all these FBI things, stuff from Border Patrol, and they'll take pictures of what they confiscate sometimes, you know, whether it be drugs or counterfeit stuff. It's KFC, baby. KFC. Look at, that's a lot of food, man. They got 3 full buckets plus 1, 2, 3, 4 bags. I'm not quite sure I understand what's with these trays. What is that on the far right? These are all sides of taters. They got 6. That'd be 9, 10 sides of taters. That's a lot of KFC, man.
Well, I think, okay, now I don't know for sure, but it looks to me like what they were going to do with those side ones is that they were going to put a couple chicken wings or a couple pieces of chicken in each one. So those bags are just chock full of chicken that they're going to separate out. Kind of like, look, Brandon, I'm sure you've never bought weed, but sometimes if you buy weed and you're buying weed for a lot of people, you buy an ounce and then you split that ounce into quarters. So if you look at this the same way, is that they were splitting, and by the way, I'm not talking about food and splitting it up like people split up drugs. So you're going to get a wing and
I'm following your analogy, just so we're clear. I am following the analogy. I got little baggies.
I appreciate that.
Baggies of wings and chickens, and I got
it. your dime bag of chicken wings.
It's a dime bag of wings with a spoonful of taters. I'm holding out for some coleslaw. I don't know how much extra I have to pay, but listen, y'all, you got to figure it out. It's KFC's on the run, man. That's a great story, SNITKER. I'm glad we can close on such a high note of journalistic integrity here on the show.
Most important story of the day. The most important story.
Well, anytime we can make South Park part of reality, I think we know we're closer. We're just a day closer to the end. Whatever that end is, I'm not sure I know. I'm not sure I'm afraid or not. But now I'm thinking about coleslaw from Kentucky Fried Chicken. So there's that. Gentlemen, it's been a really good time. We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of fun stuff. And yeah, you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you guys next week.
See you guys.